Today, the threats to our peace and prosperity emanate largely from China. To be clear, when I describe the threat from China, I'm speaking of the leaders in Beijing, not the Chinese people who suffer under the oppression and authoritarianism of their own government. The Chinese Communist Party picked up the mantle of communist ideology and has adapted it to our times. Today, the ideology that fueled the Soviet Union is alive and well in China. The CCP views the current free and open liberal order as a political and ideological threat. It wants to reshape the world in its image, centrally planned and authoritarian, a world in which the Chinese government can pick the winners and losers, where every decision isn't about helping the most people, but instead about helping the Chinese regime. The ideological mindset is important to understand because it drives CCP's actions, including right here in the homeland, threatening our economy, our people, and our way of life. They employ underhanded tactics to destabilize Western nations and further their ends. Instead of competing fairly on a level playing field, China undermines the international system. Instead of fighting on the conventional battlefield, China wages secret disinformation and propaganda wars to cripple us from within. They share a philosophical premise, the belief that the CCP can ruthlessly pursue its ends regardless of whom it hurts along the way, be it millions of people now at risk of COVID across the globe, or China's own oppressed citizens who cannot start their families, practice their faiths, or speak their minds without the fear of swift and inhumane government retribution. But the ideology is also tied to China's strategic actions against the United States in a practical way. In the truest sense of the word, it is a totalitarian state. The centralization of Chinese political, technological, and economic power, the monopoly on resources and industry, the disregard for human rights and dignity, and their own people's fear of government retributions. These traits together make the Chinese regime a serious threat to the United States and to the entire world. This combination of qualities enables the Chinese Communist Party to undermine the values of liberal democracies, liberty and equality, honesty and transparency. Their government has launched political, economic, and cultural attacks that harm our homeland and our people. And it is high time for us to recognize these attacks for what they are and to respond accordingly. China is a top threat to U.S. supply chain security and a persistent source of counterfeit goods. Whereas American businesses are the world leaders in innovation, China is the world's leader in counterfeits. Chinese counterfeiters send fake medicines, contaminated cosmetics, and other defective auto parts, to name but a few, in massive volumes. And sadly, the PRC exploited the COVID crisis by sending us fake PPE, directly hurting American citizens. Foreign investment from China has also proven to be a threat as China continues to pursue select investment in the United States to gain new technologies that it cannot produce domestically, to develop its own industrial base, and to secure access to critical supply chains. American companies are put out of business due to the unfair practices used by China, significantly harming the livelihoods of countless Americans. The hollow out and undercutting of industries that are critical to American production and employ millions is a persistent and enduring threat posed by Chinese business tactics. China exploits our academic and visa systems to advance its military and economy using a wide range of government, non-government, and private actors and platforms. For example, they use visiting professors and scholars and students to steal information or to replicate the work done here in the United States. China abuses our free market economy by stealing trade secrets, harming the very American companies and free market system that have helped to lift hundreds of millions of Chinese people out of poverty. And finally, and perhaps more close to home for many Americans, China has directly harmed the lives of countless Americans. Fentanyl and precursor chemicals from China pour into our country, often trafficked by transnational criminal organizations. In addition to this scourge of Chinese manufactured drugs that kill tens of thousands every year, COVID-19, which originated in China and has made its way to the United States after an inept, deceitful response from the Chinese government, has claimed the lives of more than 300,000 Americans thus far and has harmed millions more. Simply put, our people are suffering and dying every day because of the Chinese Communist Party. As the Acting Secretary of Homeland Security, I can tell you the plain truth. The most long-term strategic threat to Americans, to the homeland, and to the American way of life is coming from Beijing. In the United States, we value our liberty and independence. We value the right of self-determination. We value that individuals can come together to solve shared problems, free from government coercion. We value the First Amendment and the freedoms it protects, to say what we think, and to practice our faith. We value innovation and creation over theft and mindless replication. Simply put, Americans value life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, it is imperative that we have a shared understanding regarding the threats we face. Only then can we come together to protect the homeland against China's actions. From day one, President Trump has been clear that this administration will not stand idly by as a foreign power manipulates and degrades the freedom and prosperity of the American people. To combat the threat posed by China, the President is leading a whole-of-government response, and DHS is proud to play a critical role in that strategy, tapping every resource our department has to offer. That is why I'm pleased to report DHS will soon be releasing our Strategic Action Plan to counter the People's Republic of China, an innovative document built for the President Trump's 2017 National Security Strategy and the 2020 U.S. Strategic Approach to the People's Republic of China. I thank the DHS China Working Group members for their work developing this action plan and for their continued efforts to coordinate, prioritize, and articulate the department's responses to the threat posed by Beijing. As I conclude